Hey, everybody. So tell me, what does it look like when someone loses something devastating? Have you ever experienced that? And then years later, decides to rebuild herself from the inside out. And what does it look like when a woman who never called herself an athlete laces up her shoes later in life and discovers that running isn't just an exercise, it's medicine? Today's guest has lived all of it, and she is here to share every bit of it with you. Stay with me because this one will stay with you. So, welcome back to Running Strong Mind Body Connection. I'm your host, Karen Bonena Traj, your mental fitness and peak performance coach and the founder of Mental Fitness Edge. So, if you are here new today, oh, I so welcome you. I'm so excited that you joined us. This podcast exists for the athletes and leaders who are out there doing extraordinary things. I've always said extraordinary people doing extraordinary things. And these people are living a real life. They have real jobs, real families, they have real challenges in life. So, we talk about the mind and the body and the powerful connection between them. And today's conversation is a perfect example of exactly that. My guest today is Hildee Wise. I want to
Yes.
make sure I said that right.
Yeah.
And she and I just like, I know we're going to connect. She's a wife, she's a mother, a grandmother, a published author, a runner, and an advocate for one of the most underspoken topics in women's health. She published, I love this title, Forever Our Angels and Remembering Our Angels, personal stories of healing from pregnancy loss, and contributed to a Springer medical publication on the same topic. She's been featured on Diz Run, Run Buzz, and Mind Pump. I love these topics. She chronicles in her journey at, you're going to get this, you want me to do what? Home blog. And on July 2014, she made a decision to change her life forever. Hilde, welcome to Running Strong Mind Body Connection. I am super excited to have you here.
Thank you, Karen. It's so great to be here and to finally meet you after um, several weeks or a few months of corresponding and getting to know each other and what you do. And I think it's a great fit.
Yeah, I think it's a super great fit. When I read your bio, I'm like, wow. So we're both grandmothers, we both have grandchildren, we have children, we have everything. So,
Yeah.
but before we dive into it, you wear so many hats. You're an author, you're a runner, you're a grandmother, an advocate, blogger. When someone asks you, who are you? So where do you start with that?
So I'm a 57-year-old wife, mother of five, and grandmother. First and foremost, my family means everything to me. I'm celebrating this month 37 years of marriage to my husband, Gary, who has seen me literally through thick and thin. I started gaining weight when I was 17. I met him when I was 19, and we got married when I was 20. And the first several years for sure of our marriage, I was putting on weight, but he loved me unconditionally. And he marvels, I think, at times at the changes that I have made. But the changes that I've made have been first and foremost for me with making that decision 12 years ago to prioritize myself, my physical, my mental, and my emotional health. But it's made me hopefully a better wife and mother, and ultimately a grandmother, and to be the best version of myself. I was busy 12 years ago, being that busy wife and mom and community volunteer and doing so much, for others. And I don't regret it one bit, but I think that I didn't have that thing that was mine, like
Right.
a job or a hobby or a sport, like many of my
Sure.
friends did.
Right.
And it was a conversation with a very well meaning relative who said, you need to do something for yourself. And that's where it all started.
Yeah. I love that because I don't think, I know I did the exact same thing. I gave up for me, for my kids, for my husband, but then I was in a very toxic relationship.
Mm-hmm.
And when I woke up from that, being a secret for so many years and fixing. I was just going to fix everybody because everybody was broken and I was going to fix them. Well, really, we're not broken. But
Hmm.
it was like, what about me? What about
Right.
the me and me? And I know you've experienced this, but in changing ourselves, changes how we relate to ourselves as well as how we relate to other people, as
Hmm.
well as how they relate to us. And it actually draws more people to us. So I want to
Hmm.
kind of touch back on one little thing that kind of humored me was I love your blog name. So you want me to do what?
Exactly. That's
So
really
what's
what
this?
this is all been about. So in making that decision to prioritize myself, that involved my uh, making the decision to call our local community center and making the investment in starting to work out with a personal trainer.
Ah,
And that personal trainer is Jeff, who has become a dear friend, and he's my running coach. I would call him my therapist, my conscience at times. But over the last 12 years, there have been all these different tests and challenges, and um, sort of like these pushes that he's um, given to me. And my reaction at first would be, "You want me to do what? Like, what are you talking about? That's impossible. That's too hard." And along the way, I've tried those things out. Sometimes they worked on the first try, sometimes it took many, many times, sometimes I just never completed the task. But it's all been about being faced with something that I don't presume is something that I can do, but I tried out. And so, whether it's doing that first 5K race or doing a Spartan race or putting on a bathing suit for the first time and going in the water to take up swimming as a form of exercise after not having done so for decades. You want me to do what is really my story of doubting myself, of questioning myself and my abilities, and learning to open myself up to those possibilities.
um, I believe, and I've seen that, in my own life of because I was at that pivot point of having to make a decision because I needed to do a restraining order on this person, and I had 3 children, and blah blah blah. And sometimes I believe, and I felt alone, but sometimes women feel alone and we don't know what to do. And we have a choice. And I found along that path, every time I made a choice, there's always a fork in the road. And that fork in the road is we can choose this or this. And usually this is stay where we're at and do nothing. And this is okay, it's going to be hard. I don't know where I'm going to land and I don't know how I'm going to do it, but I'm going to choose this. And what happens is we grow to this level now, and then we're going to this level and this level. And I went from probably below earth up to where I am now, getting closer to heaven, but
Right.
in a spiritual way, not in an other way. But
Mm-hmm.
it's, and isn't the journey fascinating?
It's a journey. And you know what? Jeff will say that when we met, he saw that potential in me.
Yeah.
He also recognized, like, when I walked into his office for the first time, the way I walked and the way I stood and just my whole demeanor was this lack of confidence and fear. But he saw this potential in me, and he said, he was going to mold me and bring it out of me. And I don't think, while there have been so many things that have been really, really hard, I don't think that there's anything that he ever really presented to me that he thought that there was no way I would be able to accomplish that. This has all been tests and challenges to bring out what is possible.
Right. I believe that sincerely because usually we see potential in other people before we see it in ourselves. And
Hmm.
I have when I started into my coaching world, we have an assessment that actually shows our potential. I truly believe people are never stepping into their true potential because we are held back from our fears, our inner
Hmm.
critic, our saboteurs, all that stuff that sabotages because that's comfortable,
Hmm.
even though it's not right, and it's not great, but it's comfortable because we're so used to that, right?
Right.
And I love what you said about he saw, I mean, how you walked in, how you carried yourself, everything. That's how we carry ourselves, is how we carry from our own mental mindset, our own mental fitness, our own mental abilities, is how we actually show up for other people, but people can see us differently.
Yes.
And what a great
Totally.
gift. He landed in your lap right at the right time.
And I landed, I think it really was about timing because, I often say, I wish I had started this all earlier, so that I could have been doing this longer, but I wasn't in a place emotionally and mentally. Maybe physically I could have done it, but I think that I couldn't have done it in my 20s or 30s because my heart and my soul, my mind were not ready for that. So I
Right,
had to be in a place where everything could all come together.
right.
And I had the time, I had the flexibility, even when my kids were young. That during the weekdays they were at school, so technically I had the time. I just don't think that it was something that I thought as a possibility for myself. And I don't think I would have been able to embrace it the way I did when I actually made that decision.
Right. I think that's the key is you made that decision. It
Hmm.
was time for you to make that decision. It was time for me to make that decision. And nothing happens until we choose.
Hmm.
And everything always happens at the right time. And there's no reason to say, well, I wish I had, because we wouldn't have been ready. I wouldn't have been ready meeting my current husband right now. We've been together 17 years and it feels like we just met. It feels like every day's a new day. It feels like, I mean, it just feels as
Feels
opposed to
right.
where I was at,
Yeah. Yeah.
years and years ago. And I came from a toxic family. I went to a toxic marriage. We just made that keep going. But it's when we're ready to say, okay, to me, is when things will happen.
Hmm.
And I'm just, I'm going to toot a little bit, is that it was about, what is today's date? It was it was the first part of May. I met a person who gave me a massage. I did a race and I didn't finish the distance I wanted to, and I ended up getting a massage afterwards. And this guy was a somatic therapist and whatever, but he was asking me
Hmm.
some very fascinating questions. I've never had a massage therapist ask me. I mean, I've heard these questions, but not in that type of scenario. And afterwards, we sat on the table and we're chatting, and I was just marveled. And I'm going to say this even for meeting you. People come into my life, and I'm just ecstatic because of the conversations and the people and all
Hmm.
these new people coming into my life that just cross my path that help me grow better, and hopefully I help them grow better too. But
Hmm.
it just keeps happening and it keeps going and it just thrills me. And so I'm thrilled
Yeah.
to meet you.
Me too. Me too.
Super
We,
thrilled to.
we were talking about the timing. So I will share that at the time that I did make that decision to make that phone call, there was a part of me that felt it wasn't the right time. And it wasn't necessarily an excuse, but I had tripped on a step while walking outside. And when I fell, I landed on my hand. And I didn't break my hand, but I had like a traumatic um, injury, whatever you want to call it. And I went to physical therapy, and I was told I wasn't really going to be able to use my hand for several months. And so I wasn't sure whether that was going to hold me back from working out, but I figured, you know what? Let me make the phone call and see what they say. So when I spoke to the fitness director and I explained about this injury, he said, "Oh, I have the perfect person for you because, Jeff is so good at working around injuries and restrictions and what have you." So, we met and we discussed my hand injury. And for the first several months, our training sessions were 30 minutes long, twice a week. I can't remember most of the things we did during that time because we really had to work around that hand. Um, but then once that injury went away and I got the go ahead and to start working out, we expanded that to an hour of training and we started using my hand and luckily I didn't let that hold me back because I would hate to think if I wouldn't have made the phone call at the time out of curiosity, whether that would have just brushed aside that decision that I was going to make. And maybe a few months down the line, he wouldn't have been available to work with me. So I think everything does happen for a reason.
Yeah.
And the timing was just right.
What was the, if you don't mind exploring with me, what was the chatter in your head? What were you telling yourself that was, that could be holding you back from actually making that phone call? What was your beliefs, your thoughts, your chatter in your head?
I mean, this goes back 12 years, so I don't remember everything, but I'm sure, I just, I wondered what that was going to look like. How would it look that I'm going to be in the middle of the gym working out with someone? People are going to be watching. Um, was I able to do the things that he could potentially have me do? And with my hand injury, um, I didn't really have expectations in terms or real goals about working out. I think it was just something like that I decided, okay, I'm going to work with a trainer and we'll work on bettering my physical health. And in our first meeting, Jeff had asked me, what is one thing you would like to do if you could? A dream, a goal. And I said, I always wished I could run, but I just don't think I could. And we spoke for a few minutes and I shared the reasons why I felt that I shouldn't and I couldn't. And when looking back, they're all really vanity issues. I worried about how I would look in my clothes because in those days I hid behind my clothes. I wore big baggy shirts and baggy capris. I worried about how silly I would look with my movement because I never had been very coordinated. So I always said, like, I remember when the character of Phoebe went running on Friends and how embarrassed Rachel was to be with her because Phoebe was just like flapping her arms and having a lot of joy, and loving it. But, it was embarrassing for Rachel, but I worried about that I would look like Phoebe. I worry that people were watching and that I would stumble and fall. I worry that if this was something down the road that I was able to do, I would be the one needing a hip replacement or a knee replacement. I had it was all tied into this fear and this lack of confidence. And I never thought about what were the possibilities, what was the positives of it. And I shared that wish. And then we just sort of shelved that conversation and we just worked out together for several months. And we started in July of 2014. And in around January, part of my training sessions included my walking on the treadmill. And Jeff would have me add like a minute or so of jogging or running to those little workouts. So I would walk for a few minutes and then jog for a minute. And the next thing I knew, he said, I think you need to sign up for a 5K. And that was one of those, you want me to do what? Like, what are you talking about? Like, where is that coming from? Why would you think that? I've never run a mile.
Right?
He said, go run a mile. Get on the treadmill now and run a mile. because he obviously saw that possibility. I did not. So I ran that mile and we did a practice 5K together. And I signed up for a 5K in our area, um, half-heartedly, I think, because it's not something that I would have done on my own, that I would have thought possible. And I just remember, going for my bid pickup, and I was so nervous. You know, I probably took about 20 safety pins because, I'm going to lose them and I'm not sure where I'm going to put everything. And where do I place the bib? Do I do it on my shirt in the front? Do I do it in the back? Do I do it on my pants? And I didn't know what I was doing, but I do remember the excitement that I felt when I showed up to Fleet Feet, to get the bib, and I'm like, "Hi, I'm here to pick up my bib." And you know, going to the starting line on that race day, um, I call it an out of body experience. I think I was like going through the motions, and I was there, but it was kind of all a blur. Um, Jeff was there with his wife, and he said, you're going to be doing your own race. I'm going to be, running with Mervet. And there's a part of me that felt like, well, wait a second, how can you leave me? Like, I can run with you. He's like, no, 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 you do your own race. And it's not something that I really wondered about at the time. But I only found out very recently in a conversation was he had every intention of having me do that race alone and not being there for me because I guess, in his words, I needed to experience that for myself. And and I did. I mean, I ran the course. I think I just sort of followed along with everybody else and following the signs and just hoping that I was going in the right direction. And I have a very good friend who is an amazing runner, and she had completed the race, but then she went back to stand at the mile 3 point, and she was there for me to run that last tenth of a mile and, be there to see me do that. And that was everything. And of course, my husband being there at the finish line and taking the pictures and being there to, hug me and cheer me on. But it was a great experience, but I think my next one was even better. And it's been a journey. It's been a journey of the running and the fitness, but this has also been a journey about the wife and mother and grandmother who started later on in life and didn't think a whole lot of herself and the possibilities, and learning along the way to at least try things that seem so hard and finding out that she is capable and she can do hard things and it's never too late to start.
Right. That is so beautiful. That is so heartwarming. That is just so touching. I I look at that and I see people, we have the California International Marathon. I'll go out and run
Mm-hmm.
that and it's just so amazing new people doing or amazing people doing amazing things. I always say
Mm-hmm.
that.
Mm-hmm.
And doing their first marathon, doing your first 5K. And just that it just gives me chills of your story of making that, oh my God, I did a 5K. I did 3.1 miles. Who would have thought?
Yes. Yeah.
My yours is you are asking me to do what? Mine is who would have thought for
Mm-hmm.
me? Who would have thought? Who would have thought that my girlfriend and I decided we run a marathon, but I was a long distance cyclist at the time, and I'm like, I have my first mile running. I'm like, this sucks. This really hurts. This sucks. I'm not running sucks. Well, look at me now, but
Right. Exactly.
on your little thing. But it's amazing. What an amazing story. And the that's a huge example of how we can have all that inner critic sabotaging thoughts
Mm-hmm.
of who's going to look at me? What do I look like? Can I run okay? People are staring at me. Do I look stupid? I mean, the conversations people have in their head is
Oh yeah.
so much what holds us back from our potential. And
Yeah.
you were you were fortunate to find somebody who actually he was secretly trying to get you to be a runner because he put you on the treadmill. I know what he was doing.
Right. Well, I think he knew it's something that I wanted to do, but I lacked the confidence. So it's like,
Right.
okay, he was going to make it his mission to bring that out of me. The
Nice.
same way, with the Spartan races, he kept on talking about it because he had done Spartan races before. I don't know if you're familiar. It's
I have never
okay.
done one, but I know what they're about.
Well, he would talk about it, and now in my head, it's, okay, Jeff, like that's something that you would do, but that's just not me. Like, I don't want to get dirty, and I don't want to be on the ground and roll around and go under barbed wire and run over a pit of fire and be carrying 100 pounds of, rocks. It was so out of my realm and my comfort zone. But he kept on talking about it. He's like, you just got to do it. You just got to experience it. And so one day I think I just said, okay, fine. And I signed up, and we did that first one together. It was in Michigan in 2019, I believe. And, I didn't think so much about really the significance of what a Spartan race is about because it's so different than running on the road or on the treadmill or even on the trails. It's a test of your physical and your mental endurance.
Sure.
So, he had to help me climb over a 4 foot wall, 5 foot wall, 6 foot wall, and he'd be like lifting me up, holding my behind to get me up. And I just sort of like threw caution to the wind. I'm like, whatever, you know. And um, there were some real pivotal moments during that race. One of them was, I had always had a fear of heights, and
Yeah,
we had to climb this A-frame wall. And I didn't necessarily want to do it. I looked at it and thought, like, no way. But I also had that um, openness, like, okay, we'll give it a try. And I took my time with it and really try not to think about falling or slipping with that. And then there was this big, big moment that I didn't appreciate so much as it was happening. And this is something that, if you ever asked Jeff about, he could really describe it better. And he was there, and we were talking about it yesterday, where he said it was like in like a slow motion kind of thing where we had gone in a dunk wall. It was like this body of water that's total mud, and it's disgusting. And you have to, go in this water, go under a wall, and come out of it. And then once you really like you get out of it and you're on the grass and you're walking, the next obstacle is an incline wall where they have ropes to hold on to, but it's on an inverted wall. And um, we were doing all the obstacles together. I think he did more of like the climbing, the monkey bars kind of thing, and I didn't do that. I did actually more of the heavy carrying stuff. But when we got to this incline wall, you know, we're all muddy having come out of this, uh, you know, muddy waters. And I'm holding on to the rope and trying to climb on an incline up this wall. And I'm going a little bit and I feel myself slipping. And I'm trying to go a little bit more and I feel myself slipping. And he's higher and he's pretty much at the top. And he's like telling me, come on, keep on going. And he says he was even yelling because it was very, this competitive, exciting kind of thing. And I felt like, I can't do this. And I was ready to give up. And he said, let me, grab you on one side. And there was this other fellow who I never met before. He was a Spartan racer and he grabbed my left side. And I think I was thinking at the time, like, is this cheating? And apparently it's not, because the Spartan is all about, like working together and getting that help and getting through something like that. And he said he saw this look on my face, like all of a sudden, yeah, like I'm going for this. And I got up to the top of that wall and climbed over. And I think at that point, I went down on my own without any help and then just kept on going on to the next obstacle. And he said that he saw this look on my face then. It was like this look of achievement and wonder, and like I did it. And obviously, I can't relive it now, and I can't, there's no recording of anything, but I kind of remember a little bit of what that was like. And then, finishing and jumping over that pit of fire as sort of in this like blaze of glory. And that whole experience was really about bringing out this other side of me, that I had been afraid for so long and had lacked the confidence and belief in myself. And that whole Spartan race was really about um, proving to myself, not necessarily anyone else, that,
Right.
I can do really, really hard things. And, for so long, I had battled my weight, and I think I associated the weight and the scale with success and failure. And that had a lot to do with, the self-confidence. And I became so dependent on the numbers and the data. And it got to a point where I had to really make that decision to let it go and find other ways to see the success. And I also had to do that with running, where I had to shift my mindset, because for many years, once I got into running and I found that I liked it and I was pretty good at it and my paces were pretty nice, at least for me, I was happy with that. Somewhere along the way, I was getting way too caught up with the numbers. And as I got a little bit older and I had little injuries here and there, and life just happened, and I wasn't doing the same paces that I was in the beginning. I went through that whole roller coaster ride with my mindset and doubted myself. And I was so obsessed with the data. And I got into this place where I would say, I have to go out for a run now. And it was like, and I have to. It became something of a task and a burden, even.
Hmm.
And it was going back and forth, back and forth. And it went on for a few years. And it was just about 2 years ago where I was having conversations with Jeff about it. I remember one time I went out for a run in my neighborhood, and I think it was, like a 3.5 mile run, and I stopped short after like 2 miles, and then I was upset with myself. So, and it's like, why did I stop? And I was very frustrated. And I think I was about to do a race, and I spoke to Jeff on my way home from this aborted run, and he said, first of all, you know that you don't have to run if you don't want to. And I said, no, 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 I do want to run. And it's like, you don't have to do the race on Sunday. Like, no one is forcing you. You have to ask yourself, is this really what I want to do? And I said,
Hmm.
yes. And he said, well, then you have to like really dig deep and figure out a way to enjoy it, because what's the whole point of doing it if you don't enjoy it? And he used the words, find her. He said, find that version of yourself that really enjoyed running and didn't have to give it a second thought. And it, I had that drive back then, but I think I was missing it. And I had to do like different things, and it wasn't, this perfectly thing where I just like the next day I went out running and it was all perfect. I had to um, plan a little bit differently, um, plan my route, my music, my clothes. because if I would have just done things on the spur of the moment, I don't think I would have like stuck to the plan. But I also had to like decide that I'm not going to look at my watch and I'm not going to think about the numbers and I'm just going to go out there and do it. And once I started doing that, it changed everything.
Yeah.
I started to become more aware of what I was seeing. Like you were talking before about when you were, I think on your, um, it was a bike ride or it was a run, where like you were noticing the your surroundings. And I started
Right.
to do that more and more. And when
Hmm.
I'm, especially when I'm running through the neighborhood here, I make sure that I'm saying hello to as I'm passing
Hmm.
by people. And it doesn't matter if it's slowing me down a few seconds because I did that. Like that's just part of the experience. And I'm looking at it now these days as more of an opportunity.
Mm.
And it's something I get to do rather than something I have to do.
Right. I love that. And that's so much of a lot of people I work with too. They're so stuck in that mindset and how we sabotage ourselves. And um, when we're so obsessed with the data,
Mm-hmm.
because the data is not who you are.
Yeah.
And I can look back on this date, I ran faster. Now I don't run as fast because we're telling ourselves we're not running as fast. Therefore, that's what you're going to manifest. What you tell yourself, what you think about is what you're going to manifest. And when
Mm-hmm.
we get tapped back into really, you had the opportunity, and I'm excited you have the coach you have because we have the opportunity at every moment to choose, and we can choose to do this or not. And I've done that before myself. I'm living in Auburn. I have nothing but hills here. I'm either going up or down. I have no choice to do flat. If I want to go to flat, I go to the high school and run around the track. But it's not steep hills, but there's up, no matter what. I leave my house, I'm going up.
Mm-hmm.
Some of them are steeper, that's because I choose it. But there's the one hill is It's called Indian Hill, or Maidu, actually. It's Maidu. And coming home is a steeper climb up. And then I go to a walk, and I'm like, why? I don't have to walk. It's a habit. It's a
Mm-hmm.
subconscious habit of, okay, you're therefore tired, your legs are this or that, but they weren't. Then I
Right.
chose this
You
like,
just
okay,
told yourself.
actually I can run. You can run this. And I'm
Right.
actually pretty good on hills right now. I've trained so much lately. The hills are just my sweet spot, but it's what we tell ourselves and it's what our subconscious is used to. And
Mm-hmm.
I'm doing a workshop, and this workshop I'm teaching on it's that internal belief. And those beliefs are something we created when we were kids. And they're so quiet in our subconscious that creates those thoughts. And those thoughts is what creates those emotions and then that creates the outcome of our actions. And it's that internal belief. And I had tapped into, and we were talking earlier about potential. So, and then all the work I've done to become the level of coach I am right now is back tapping back into my inner child per se, my inner child, my inner knowing, my inner me. And when I was 7, we lived in Covina, and behind us was all these rolling hills. It was just hills and hills and hills that had shepherds and horses and cows just like roaming. And I was so curious. I was so curious, and I have scars on my knees climbing over the barbed wire fences when I wasn't supposed to, because I
Uh-huh.
wanted to know what was on the other side. I wanted to know what was out there. It was that sense of adventure. And
Mm-hmm.
that's what brings me to be the ultra runner I am today is still that sense of adventure. How long can I go? And my tag thing too is who would have known? Who would have known that I would be doing this when I was in my 20s and 30s? Who wouldn't?
Yeah.
I certainly wouldn't. I would balk at it. I mean, what are you crazy? But now
Yeah.
it's tapping back into that my inner child's curiosity. And I teach that through my boot camp of tapping back into really that curiosity that's deep inside of us and exploring that and living it. And then Missy, I'm a lot older than you, and age is not anything but a number. It's
Right.
the energy we hold in our body, right? And I just went out and did a 20-mile bike ride with my grandson this morning. So, and I'm like, how fun was this? And he had a blast.
Yeah.
He just had a blast. And he's Is he 16? He's 16. He just got his driver's license.
Hmm.
And to be able to do that and be at that, not caliber or anything, but just ha myself having that physical ability, because we all have the potential. We just
Hmm.
have to choose it. We can all
Right.
do amazing things because we're amazing people.
Yeah, I mean, look, this is not something that even though I had that like wish to run because it looked like something very seamless when I would watch others do it, it's not
Yeah,
something that I really pictured myself doing a
right.
lot. And that's tied into the lack of confidence. It's not like I was 10 years old and I said, God, I want to run someday. I really never imagined that for myself. And
Right.
again, going in when I first started this whole process with working out with Jeff, I just never pictured the races, the getting into the water to swim again after decades of always sitting on the sidelines with letting my
Sidelines.
kids, swimming. I took up spinning um, shortly after I started working out with him as a form of cross training, and I love it. It's not something though that I really imagined for myself. I remember I have friends that did it and I would, hear from them how much they loved it, but it just wasn't like on my radar until I started it. And now I can't imagine my life without it. I mean, when I'm in Israel, I take classes at the local gym and I got a Peloton bike last year for my basement. And I have a Peloton treadmill that I also have to do my running and walking when I'm inside, but I'm also trying to get outside and do whatever I can. I, you know, I all these things I just didn't picture for
Right.
myself,
Right.
but now I can't imagine my life without it. And I hope to be doing this for
Ever.
another 20, 30 years, whatever it is. It'll be at a slower pace, obviously.
It
And I
doesn't
won't be,
matter. It
no, I don't
doesn't matter.
care.
It's the fact that we're doing it. I
It's
have a
been,
hundred, she's 100 years old, my neighbor, and right out of her house is probably a 20% grade. And we live on a street that cuts a circle in half. And so she
mhm.
actually walked by my house. That means she had to come up a hill to get by my house. She's 100. She walks.
I want to be 100. I don't care about walking. I'd love to make it that far. But, I've been at races where there's women in their 80s going to the podium to get their medals. I, you
Right.
know, I I'll tell you a story, and I haven't told this before. I did this indoor triathlon at our JCC, and it's nowhere close to an actual triathlon. It's just like 15 minutes on the bike and 20 minutes in the pool, whatever it was, and it was a
A
fun race. So
triathlon is three different segments, right?
right,
That's
but
all it
yeah,
is.
yes, it was in our gym, and first you just do laps for however much in a certain period of time. Then you have 10 minutes to change, and you go into the gym and you're on the spin bike and you cannot touch the resistance whatsoever, and you're spinning for a certain amount of time, and then you have a little break and you go upstairs and you're going around the track and you're running as much as you can in that amount of time. So I remember when, I actually decided on my own to sign up for it because it was going to be on a date that I was going to be around. I thought, I had started swimming. I was spinning. I was swimming. I was running. I can put all three together. It's going to be something different. It's going to raise money for our local community center. And so the training that I did with Jeff took a little bit of a different turn in terms of him having me run around the track, which I hated so much because I was worried about like bumping into people and weaving around them. But I remember when I started training in the pool, and like on the days that I would go swimming, there was this woman that I got friendly with, and she was probably in her later 70s, maybe 80s, and she said she was going to be doing this race. And I thought to myself, well, at least I know I'm not going to come in last. Until I found out that she became a master swimmer in her 60s, and she's been swimming ever since. And she put me to shame. Also, I felt like, that is a role model for me. That is someone
Yeah.
that I can aspire, that I may not be doing the same thing, but I'd like to have her just ability to be active in whatever way I'm able to do at that point. I started a little later. I can't make up for lost time. I can
Yep.
only do what I'm able to do in the moment and look ahead with some positivity.
I have a few challenges for you. I started later. My first 100 was when I was in my 50s, and it's a 100-mile run.
Yeah.
I believe with that, when we start later in life, our bodies will hold up longer in life. We won't be as broken as those guys who started in their teens and 20s and are
Hmm.
super fast and did soccer and baseball and blah, 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 who are broken now because their knees and their hips and whatever, because they were so fast in their
Yeah.
young days that they're all broken. I never was fast. And I told my brother I never learned how to run. He was in track. I wasn't in track. I'd rather ride a bike. It's a lot more fun and I can go farther and it's not as much beating up on your body, but now I do both. But
Hmm.
if you see something in somebody else you saw in this woman,
Hmm.
you have the exact same qualities. In order for you to see that in her, you have those qualities too. It's just, it's in your time when you're ready, it'll open up for you. I want to be the oldest. I want to be the oldest woman finishing 100 and have a record with that. I'm going to start training to do the jackpot 100-mile USATF race, and I want to set the time for the 100 miles. It's on a 1.1 loop with 18 feet of climbing each loop,
Oh my
which is
God, I'm just so
hilarious.
impressed.
I want to set my age group record, which will be some interesting training.
You will do it.
I want to be able to be the oldest woman finishing, because somebody asked me why. And I think it's just for me. It's my own like recognition or challenge for me that I do for me. It's just like I just think it's super cool. And if that can inspire somebody else like Hilde to do something extraordinary, to be that first place person in something she chooses to do, right on. But it's again amazing people doing amazing things. And I started late in life. I never was a athlete. I never was raised to be an athlete.
Hmm.
My mom raised me to be a housewife and stay in the home, which didn't fit well with me because my spirit wanted to be outside and in nature. And when we can do that and step into what our spirit and our soul is speaking for us to do, it's amazing things will happen.
Hmm.
The other thing is letting go of, I never run with earphones anymore. I can't do music because I can't dance and run at the same time because I always want to dance to the music, and I just can't do that. And it takes me away from hearing the birds, the wind blowing in the trees. And you were
Hmm.
saying that when you went to, letting go of everything, and you actually, if you look around, when you go out for a run, how many times do you see the tree that you're running by? Or you always, I'm always looking at the ground. It's like, look up,
Right. Yeah.
look around you, look at how many people in their own neighborhood don't even notice the tree across the street
Yes,
because
so
we're
I do.
so
Yeah,
busy.
I do have music playing when I'm outside, but it's just like a little background noise.
Yeah.
Once
And
in a
that,
while,
everybody's
yeah.
preference. Yeah.
I mean, sometimes I feel a little bit like if there's a song that comes on and there's a part of me that wants to sing, and then I'm like, no, Hilde, you can't sing. You have a terrible voice.
You can sing.
But but I am able to really appreciate what I'm seeing when I'm out there now. I've been running around my neighborhoods and the adjacent neighborhoods. I think the other day I did a run where I just went up and down the streets of one section of our neighborhood. And I was able, even with the music playing in my ears, I was able to, hear those little outside noises
Nice.
and take everything in and wave to the kids as they were, getting on the buses, looking out to see if I was going to see my daughter in her van driving the kids to school. I didn't, but I was there around that time. Um, I see neighbors and friends sometimes on the streets, and we wave to each other, and they're like, "Go get it." Um, it's a very different adventure, I think, that I'm
Yeah.
doing now.
Yeah.
And it's like I found that love again. It's not something that I can experience when I'm on a treadmill.
Right.
And then there's the trails, which is a whole different world that Jeff
Yeah.
introduced me to several years ago. And I fell in love with it. And I don't do it enough. And I will only do it with him because uh, I don't want to trip and fall. If I'm out by myself, I'm in trouble. And if I get lost, I'm in trouble. So I've told him I only go out with him. And, it's hard. He has his busy life and figure out the time. Hopefully we'll get out there at least once this summer. But that is just a whole different world from road running
Yeah.
and going on the treadmill because you're really at one with nature and
Right.
just the beauty and like the streams of water and the greenery and there's the dirt and the mud and the water. And I've learned to embrace that because I remember I used to be so afraid I would see, like we'd have to pass through water. Oh my gosh, I'm going to get
Well,
wet.
girl,
Now
you
it's
did a
like,
Spartan race. You can do
I
anything
know,
now.
I know. I remember I went on a trail run with his running group about 2 years ago, and we had to go through a stream of water to get to the other side. And we were going on rocks to get across, and it's all guys, and they make it across, and I go on a rock, and of course it tilts, and I wound up going in the water, and I once again use my hand as my landing form, and my finger blew up, but I felt like so powerful in a
Nice.
way that like I got right back up and I didn't say, "Oh my gosh, I'm hurt," which is the what would have happened years ago. And I was wet and my pants were wet, my socks were soaked, my shoes were soaked, and I just kept on going and I don't know that I would have been able to do that when I first started out because I would have been afraid and
Right.
worried about like, you know, all that. But when you're on the trails, especially once you enter
Yep.
the woods or the towpath, you have to really leave everything behind. You
Yep.
can't be thinking about other things because you have to be looking ahead, you have to be looking down, watching out for debris. Um, and there's just something magical when you're out there and you're able to tune everything else out for however long you're going to be out there. And it'll be there when you finish that run, but it's just, um, Jeff is always taking pictures when we go on these trail runs and he sends them to me and he takes pictures of the waterfalls. And, um, you hear, I remember early on when we started trail running, I don't remember how many different animals we came across.
Mm, there you go. Yeah.
And I think if that was something that I would have seen when I'm on a run, I would have freaked out.
Yeah.
But it was just part of this beautiful world that he
Right.
opened me up to.
Yeah, my brother, you made a comment on the Spartan race. My brother's like kept pushing me to run on trails because it's just, I'm like, I don't want to get dirty.
Believe me.
And so now,
Oh,
now everything I do is on a trail. And yesterday, we have bears here in Auburn. They came
hmm
after we had the fire. They've become familiar with our trash bins and the neighborhood and food and whatnot. But yesterday I saw a mom and her two baby deer and
hmm
her two little, and these guys were just little things with their little spots. They were just born. I was like, I have never seen them so little, but you see stuff like that. You come across the animals like that in Flagstaff in Arizona. We've been up in the mountains. I hear the elk bugling. I've done the Stagecoach 100 when you run from Flagstaff to the Grand Canyon. How amazing is that? The next
Yeah, but I probably would have been choosing the treadmill at that point.
the the
I'm worried
elk
about
are out there
ticks.
and you can hear them bugling because they're
Yeah.
in the rut and
Yeah.
it's just mind blowing. And I know something was in the trail next to me because I saw the eyes and I'm like, okay, that's going to be a elk for me, so I'm happy with that. I don't know what it was, but I just kept going. I didn't get scared. So Hildy,
Yes.
so the person listening to this right now who most needs your story, if you could speak directly to them, what would you say? What would you let them know?
If there is something that you're thinking about doing, whether it's taking up running or taking up a new hobby, don't talk yourself out of it. Don't tell yourself that it's going to be too hard or it's impossible or that you don't have it in you.
Hmm,
Take that first step and give it a try because you have no idea what it could open up to.
beautiful. Absolutely beautiful. So, thank you, Hildy.
Oh, thank you, Karen.
This
This
has been
was
so fun.
delightful.
Your books and your blog and your books are on Amazon?
Uh, well, the Pregnancy Loss books, I don't even think are available anymore because I wrote them many years ago. The book now, Embracing My Inner Athlete, is coming out Tuesday, June 9th. It's going to be on
Nice.
Amazon and Barnes and Noble and Library Tales Publishing, which is my amazing publisher. And uh, yeah, I mean, I'm on Facebook and Instagram, and I've got my blog that I continue to post now and then, and that's really just been my way of sharing the journey. I started in 2019, and sometimes it could be just sharing what I did in my workout, or it could be something very, very deep and thought provoking if I'm in that kind of moment where I'm opening up and sharing because this whole story of mine is not one of someone that decided at 46 to start running and it was perfect. This has been anything but perfect. There's been injuries. I've been diagnosed with an illness. I had surgery 2 years ago that took me many months to recover mentally beyond the physical recovery. And it's changed me so much. And um, um, again, my message is, there's so many people that I hope could benefit from it. It's the
Yep.
busy moms like I was who
Yep.
need to prioritize themselves. It's the people that are a little bit older who are thinking about taking up fitness or running. Um, and it's really for anyone to, uh, you know, believe in themselves and give themselves a chance and open themselves up to making the impossible a reality.
Yep. That's so true. I will post your blog and your book on the show notes so people can find it. And I want to again thank you so much for being on this
Thank you.
podcast.
Thank you.
We will ending running strong, mind body connection. Thank you, Hildy.
Thank you, Karen.
Hey, you guys. So, for everybody listening, if you heard yourself somewhere in Hildy's story, if you recognize your own comebacks, your own moment of choosing yourself, I want you to know that support exists. So, in my Running Strong Mind Body my it's Running Strong, my mental fitness edge boot camp is built for people exactly like you and exactly like Hildy. It's not a program you buy and forget. It's a real transformation you take with yourself day after day with accountability, community, and tools you use the rest of your life. Tools that work at mile 2, tools that work at mile 50 and tools that work at mile 100 and tools that work at 3 a.m. in the morning. So these tools work in the boardroom and the start line and every place in between. So the first step is simply a conversation. I have a free discovery call link in the show notes. Click it. Let's talk. You have nothing to lose and everything to gain. Thank you for being here. Thank you for listening. Thank you for choosing to build a stronger mind and a stronger life. So until next time, my friends, this is Running Strong, Mind Body Connection. Karen Banana Traj.